Hey, subscribe to this channel. Get 2 free recipes every week. And ring that bell so that you get reminded when new recipes come out. Don't miss a recipe. Especially today's recipe. Chicken soup. No chicken though. And I don't advertise this as a vegetable soup because even though it's a vegetable soup, I want it to be just like a chicken soup. A little brothy, and that broth is going to be special. Beautiful. And that's what we're going to start with. A beautiful special broth. But no chicken in that broth. 100% vegetables. A little trick to that I'm going to teach you. So get ready and let's get cooking. Okay, so the first thing we have to look at are the vegetables. Okay, and here are the vegetables. First, of course, we have carrots, and they're very easy. Just peel them. And then the way we're going to cut all of our vegetables today, we're going to slice them. And the reason why we're going to slice them is because you get a lot more surface area. Big surface area on both sides. A lot of surface area. More surface area, more flavor. Now I use 3 medium-sized carrots, that's fine. All the ingredients and the amounts are going to be in the description below. Okay? Also in the description below, I'm going to set up a couple of links so you can check out where you can buy some of the equipment that I'm using on today's video. Hey, that's from Amazon. I'm an associate, so that means I set up a link, you hit the link, you go to Amazon. If you choose to buy something, I get a small commission, very nice, and you get a nice piece of equipment, which is also very nice. I'm going to use 2 medium-sized onions. I'm going to slice it, just like with the carrot. First I cut them in half, I peel them. It's very easy to peel when you cut them in half like this. Okay, and then just slice them up. This is a parsnip, kind of like a white carrot. I'm going to use 1 large one. Some of them come a little smaller. If you have a smaller one, use 2 of them. If you have a larger one, use 1. It's okay. This is going to add a lot of sweetness to this soup. I'm going to slice it just like I did with the carrot. This is a white turnip. Great earthy flavor. And this is kind of a large one. Pretty large, about the size of a baseball, maybe a little bigger. I'm going to use 1 of these. I'm going to peel off the outside. Now you see why it's called a white turnip? Look at all that white color in there. Okay, and then you also want to slice this. So just to make it easy, I cut it in half so it can sit flat on a cutting board. Then I can slice it. Two stalks of celery. I got them cut up a little bit so I can handle them, but they're basically 2 stalks of celery. And I'm going to slice these up too. A leek. This is a pretty big leek, right? We're only going to use the green parts right now. You use the white parts for, like the white parts are edible. So use that for something else. The green parts have a lot of flavor, so we can use that to make our soup. And I cut it at an angle towards the end of the leek. And that's because, see the middle here is very green, and that green part is very edible. Very nice. This whole thing now is a nice kind of an onion flavored vegetable. Very good. And these, just cut these into pieces. About 1 to 1.5 inch squares like that. Here you have a nice big bowl full of vegetables. Now I'm going to wash these vegetables off, and I'm going to show you what to do with them. To wash these vegetables, I fill the bowl up with water with the vegetables in it, and I agitate it. Kind of cleans the vegetable, right? Then let it sit for about 2-3 minutes. Let it sit. Okay, so it's been 2-3 minutes. It's sat, and the dirt is heavier than the water, so dirt sinks to the bottom of the bowl. Then I can take the vegetables out of the water. You see, if I just kind of tilt the bowl and pour out the water, all the dirt is going to attach back to the vegetable. I can't do that. I got to take the vegetable carefully out of the water. Okay, so you see some dirt in there. These vegetables are pretty clean, but you do see some dirt in there, and so you don't want that in your soup. Get rid of it. Wash the vegetables. Make sure you wash your vegetables. It's very important. I'm going to use a slow cooker. I'm putting all my vegetables inside the slow cooker. Just like that. I'm going to fill this with enough cold water to cover the vegetables. Okay, you see how that they're covered. They're covered by about 1 inch. That's perfect. I'm going to cover it up. I'm going to put this on high, and I'm going to let this cook for 4 hours. Now here's what's going on. I got the vegetables in the slow cooker. I added cold water to them. Okay? So the vegetables have a chance to leach out their flavor. If you put hot water in it, hey, I want to save some time, I'm going to add some hot water to it. If you add hot water, it kind of seals the vegetable, doesn't allow the vegetable to really leach out their flavor. So what's going to happen is that the vegetables are going to cook slowly, start with cold water, they're going to start leaching out their flavor, and then we're going to let it cook for 4 hours. Get all that flavor out. Then we're going to strain it, and you have your vegetable broth. Then we're going to make the soup from that broth. But this isn't really difficult, especially if you use the slow cooker. Cut your vegetables, throw it in there, cold water, set your timer, and you're done. You're done. Come back in 4 hours. You know how much TV you can watch in 4 hours while this is cooking? Fantastic. Okay, I'll see you in 4 hours. Hey, it's been 4 hours. This thing's been simmering very slowly. Very good. And you know what? I can smell that flavor. That's a great flavor, that soup flavor, all over the kitchen, all over the house. Terrific. Ooh, that's beautiful. This is how we waft. Ooh, smell like vegetables. That's good because it's a vegetable kind of soup. Okay, I have here a chinois. A chinois is a strainer, very, very fine strainer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to strain the vegetables out of the soup. Okay, this is how I want to do it. Okay, now here's the trick. I want this broth to be really clean and really clear, really nice. I gotta strain it through something really, really fine. Finer than cheesecloth. Cheesecloth is a really fine cloth that's like you can strain things through, but it's not as fine as a plain white t-shirt. Hey, this works great. I get one right out of the package, brand new. Never been used, never been worn, and that's why I strain it. I save the t-shirt, just keep washing it and save it. Just for food, it works great. Watch this. I'm going to take a scissor and just cut this right in half. I put that t-shirt right over the colander. This soup looks pretty clear already, right? But watch what happens when I strain it through the t-shirt. Hey, you can see the dirt and all the little bits of vegetable that's caught in the broth. Now it's caught in the t-shirt. Wonderful. This broth is going to be so clear. I'm going to show you how clear it is in a minute. Check out how beautiful that broth is. That's fantastic. Now you can make a beautiful chicken soup using this broth. It's not really chicken broth, but it's a beautiful, flavorful, clear broth. Just one more thing I'm going to have to add. Okay, so I taste the broth. It's good, but it's a little bit flat. You know why? There's no salt. If you ever eat anything salt-free, first thing in my mind, it needs salt. Because there's no salt in it. It's got flavor, but it doesn't have that taste to it. Okay, let's get some salt in there. I'm going to start with about 2 teaspoons of salt. Yeah. Almost perfect. I'm going to add 1 more teaspoon. Now you may think this is a lot of salt, but not nearly as much as you would have if you bought a can of soup. It's only a tablespoon of salt. And this is about 15 portions. So it's really not a lot of salt in each portion. That's delicious. Homemade broth. Vegetable broth. Delicious. Very healthy. All the vitamins in the vegetables that are water soluble, that leach out, are in the broth. And that broth is a delicious broth. Now we got to make our soup. So it's the next day, and this broth, which is liquid gold, is nice and cold. Been in the refrigerator all night, nice and cold. Start with cold, okay? And for the same reason of how we made the broth, the vegetables that we're going to put into this to make it soup, you want to put it in a cold broth and then bring it up to temperature so that the flavor of the vegetables leaches out into the broth. If it starts with a hot broth, it just kind of cooks the vegetables and seals the flavor in. And you don't want to do that. You want to get the flavor out into the broth. When I do a chicken soup, it's all about the broth. It's all about the broth. I love the broth. The broth is where it's at. Vegetables are nice, garnish is nice. I'm going to put a little pasta in this soup. That's fantastic, but it's all about the broth. So we're going to make this broth really, really good. We're going to use some science. You ready? Even if you don't like science, you're going to like this science, because this science involves food and cooking. I love it. Okay, so we're going to use the slow cooker once again, because just like when we made the broth the first time, we're going to use that same technique of putting everything in cold and then bring it up to temperature. I don't want to boil this at all. I want to bring it to a temperature just under simmer. If you boil soup, what happens is that it gets like violent. Okay? It punches the vegetables together. It kind of knocks everything into each other. And that knocks off a lot of the impurities in the vegetables. And what happens is that the soup gets cloudy. You don't want cloudy soup. It just doesn't look good. And if it's cloudy, you have to strain the vegetables out, clarify the soup, then add the vegetables. Pain in the neck. Pain in the neck. You don't want to have to do that. That's crazy. So just cook it at under a simmer. To do that, I use the slow cooker. It's perfect. Slow cooker on high gets it just to temperature. It doesn't simmer it. It just cooks it really nice and slow and perfect. You don't even have to watch it. Just set it and forget it. The vegetables I'm going to use are the same vegetables pretty much that's in the soup. I don't put onions in there because onions get mushy. I'm not putting the leek in there because leek gets mushy once it's cooked. So I'm just putting in these root vegetables. Any root vegetable works. So I got these root vegetables. And we're going to peel them and dice them. And this is a nice medium-sized white turnip. Then I have 2 medium-sized carrots. And 1 large parsnip. Don't forget the rule in making soup. Everything you cut that goes into the soup has to fit on that spoon. Because I don't want stuff hanging off the spoon. It's difficult to eat the soup if stuff is hanging off the spoon. So make everything nice and bite-sized. I got a big mouth, but so make it a little bit smaller than bite-sized if you're talking about my mouth. All right. Let's get cutting over here. First I cut it into a size I can handle. Then I just cut off like 1/3 of it so I can lay it flat. It's good. Then I can cut it nice. Maybe a nice 1/2-inch dice. There you go. That's a nice size. You see that? Beautiful vegetables, okay? Now here I have about 6 cups of vegetable broth. Nice and cold, like right from the refrigerator. Just put it right there. Beautiful. I put this on, high fire. I'm gonna let this cook. It's gonna be about 2 hours, 3 hours. It's okay. Nice and low, nice and low. I'm gonna check after 2 hours. It's probably gonna take between 3 and 4 hours. Just gonna check it. When the vegetables are tender, it's done. And soup. And then we have to have one more thing. Okay, I like my soups to be like almost a meal, okay? And so in order to do that, I have to add something that's gonna be substantial. It's gonna fill me up. It's gonna give me some calories. Look, it's great to have a meal with like 2 calories in it, but that's not realistic. If I have a meal with 2 calories, you know what? I'm gonna be very hungry right after I eat that. So I have to have something substantial. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some pasta to this soup. That's gonna give it some calories, but it's not gonna add fat, so it's not a bad calorie. I use a semolina pasta, good quality. That's a whole grain, that's good. So it's wonderful. You can use potato. Potato's good. Leave the skin on. It's fantastic. Pasta's a little bit easier, okay? So let's add some pasta. Okay, what kind of pasta? I'm gonna use orecchietta. Orecchietta is wonderful. Why? The shape of orecchietta pasta, it's like a little hat. It's made with your thumb. You can see that? Kind of cool. Look inside. It's like a little cup. Wonderful. The soup gets kind of caught in here. It's very nice, very unique. Hey, it's fun to eat. People love it. Orecchietta. Very nice. They make it with their thumb. That's how you make it. You put it in the thumb. You make it like that, on your thumb, like that. Wonderful stuff. So, I'm going to cook it. I don't want to cook it in the water because the starch is going to cloud up the water in the soup. I want that soup to be beautiful, clear, clean, okay? So I cook it separately in lots of boiling water. So here's what I do. I got this water boiling like crazy, okay? About 3 cups of water. Okay, it's about 4 cups of water, and I'm going to cook 1 cup of that orecchietta pasta in it. And I'm going to use about a tablespoon of salt. Beautiful. That's not optional. You gotta add salt to that water. Okay, add your pasta. Give it a stir. Let that come back up to a boil. Okay, see how it's coming to a boil? Wonderful. Give it a stir. Good. It's not gonna stick together now. And let it cook. It's gonna take about 10 minutes. Normally pasta takes about 7 or so. But I don't want this to be really al dente. I want it to be fully cooked. I want it to be a little soft because I don't want to absorb all that broth. I told you, I love the broth in soup. Now, if I put pasta in and the pasta's not fully cooked, it's going to absorb a lot of that broth. And all you're going to have is pasta and vegetables. There's no broth. You need broth. Soup is about the broth. All right? So I like to have broth in soup. So cook this all the way. Should be soft. And it won't absorb all that broth. Hey, I'm a chef. I know what I'm talking about. All right. Okay, so this has been cooking for 4 hours. And while it's been cooking, what I did was, remember, I cooked that pasta. There it is. That's wonderful. Okay, so I cooked that pasta and rinsed it, cooked it well, cooked it for like 10 minutes. Rinsed it, so now it's really fully cooked. Okay, so this soup has been cooking for 4 hours. Now the first hour is just getting up to temperature. Then it kind of slowly cooks for 3 hours. Because it cooks so slowly, the broth is beautiful, flavorful, and really clean and clear. I'm going to show you 1 second. Can you check that out? Check that out. Very nice, clear, beautiful broth. Tastes excellent also. Wonderful. Cooked it until it's fully cooked. Then I rinsed it, get as much starch off it as possible, because starch will cloud the soup. Check that out. Hey, that's beautiful. So nice, so clean. I love it, and great flavor. And this is a real unique soup, and you saw how easy this is to make. Wonderful stuff. Okay, so I also have other soups too. Like I have a mushroom barley soup. Terrific. You gotta check that out. I'll see you at that video. Excellent. I'm going to drink this whole thing.